Good evening and welcome to tonight's Meadville Tribune Forum for the candidates running for Meadville Mayor as well as Meadville City Council. We welcome you watching on Armstrong Cable to the Active Aging Center here in Meadville. I'm Keith Gushard, one of the reporters with the Meadville Tribune. And with me is Rick Green, our editor of the paper. We appreciate that candidates appearing this evening to be questioned regarding issues facing the city of Meadville. With us tonight are mayoral candidates Jamie Kinder, who is a Democrat, and Marcy Kantz, who is running a write-in campaign. Also with us are the candidates for Meadville City Council, Democrats Gretchen Myers and Republicans James Araroa and Nancy Mangelo Bittner. One other candidate for Meadville City Council, Democrat Jack Harkless, is unable to be here this evening, which will be explained by the following statement Mr. Harkless sent to us. And Mr. Harkless said, "It is with much regret that I will not be able to attend the forum. I've always believed that these types of interactions are one of the best ways for voters to hear honest takes on the topics which face us all. I believe it will help give voters a more informed opinion when they go to the polls and a chance to get to know us. Unfortunately, several of the people in my home have contracted COVID, and following CDC guidelines, I will be quarantining at home and cannot be around other people until we've seen this protocol to its end. To those who will not hear me speak tonight, know that I am running with Gretchen Myers and Jamie Kinder in a coordinated campaign, and that while we may vary in our approaches and our passions, that we share the same values, so that when you hear their opinions on issues, you know that we stand together on them. And accordingly, we asked Mr. Harkless to provide a statement regarding why voters should consider him for a seat on City Council, and he sent the following statement, which I will now read. I would like to thank the Tribune, Armstrong, and all those that made this possible. My name is Jack Harkless. As many of you know, I ran for City Council in 2019 as well, and I hope to many that translates into an example of tenacity. I, like many others here tonight, believe that I have something to offer to this city. To me, that's a lot of things: being raised in this community, my education at Allegheny, being an Eagle Scout, and a father. All things which gave me a different perspective of Meadville. Ultimately, though, while setting an example for my son and a sense of personal responsibility for the city I live in were both reasons I wanted to do this. It was the experiences I had with things like My Meadville, working with county Democrats and learning about how many of the processes of government do not work for many of the people living here, that led me to this precipice. We are a unique community, one that needs unique answers to its problems. We started this chain of events in 2019's election, and we are here to finish what we started. We are here to deliver on promises we made. We want to make the political system accessible to everyone and proactively solicit the input of our constituents. We want to assure that safe housing is available for all those who decide to reside in our beautiful city, and want to improve the infrastructure and park facilities in our community. If these things sound good to you, please consider voting for Jamie, Gretchen, and Jack on November 2nd. That was a statement from Jack Harkless, a candidate for Meadville City Council, who is unable to be with us tonight due to his COVID illness. Now, for the candidates that are here, we're going to allow each of them up to a 3-minute introduction of themselves, and then we'll begin questioning the candidates. When we get to the questions, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. We drew lots to see who will go first with the introduction, and we'll begin the questioning with that same person once the introductions are done. And I think my long-windedness is done. Right now, we'll turn it over to Gretchen Myers, one of the candidates for Meadville City Council. Ms. Myers, you have up to 3 minutes to make an opening statement. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Keith. Yes, I am Gretchen Myers, and I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. We feel like all of us here, I'm sure that this is really important, and it's a really wonderful opportunity. I am incredibly grateful for this opportunity. I want to thank Keith and Rick and Shannon and Mike and Kevin, who are in the room with us, and for all your work that you do with these events. Also, I'd like to thank the Meadville Tribune, Active Aging, Cool 101, and Armstrong for making this possible. So a little about me: I own and teach dance at Allegra Dance Arts, and I've owned my studio for 20 years, and it's in downtown Meadville. I also teach dance at Allegheny College and for area schools through the enrichment program. So you might be asking, why would a dance teacher run for city council? The reason I hope to serve is, for me, it is a way to pay it forward. Our families are more often than not our primary influencers, and I come from a family of 3 generations of nurses, doctors, and teachers. My grandparents, including my grandmother actually, father and brothers all served in the military, so being of service and conscientious runs strong in my family. Unfortunately, my father died when I was 4, and I know deep in my heart and thinking that if it weren't for the adults in my hometown who rose up to see me as a valuable person, my life could have turned out very differently. I'm running for City Council because I care about Meadville, our families, our children, and those who are living alone, actually. I am hopeful that we can take care of each other and create a City Council that has that tone. I think as a council, we should build on practicing compassion through compassionate governance. Great things happen when we listen, welcome, respect, understand, trust, and integrate all voices. Tell me your concerns, how can I help, and help me understand are key frames and questions that I would like the city to engage. I have this other part of me that values critical and rational thought, especially in problem solving. I'm willing and able to do research, question, examine, and discuss. Integrating ideas and perspectives is important to fleshing out issues around policy. So I hope that we can carry out this practice of compassionate governance forward, and for me, it is key to our ability to thrive as a city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Nancy Mangelo-Bittner. Nancy, you're up.
I want to thank Armstrong and Active Aging and the Meadville Tribune for having this forum. I'm Nancy Mangelo-Bittner. I've served 2 previous terms as a city council member, and I'm asking for the opportunity to serve you once again. I've lived in the greater Meadville area for over 50 years. After graduation, I moved here and have both rented and owned homes. For 30 years, I worked as a certified paralegal and office manager for a large law firm. During that time, I also took extensive training for my real estate associate brokers and appraisers licenses. This requires 42 hours of continuing education every 2 years. I enrolled in Allegheny as a returning student and attended there for 3 years and have taken classes at Edinburgh. For the past 21 years, I have worked as the property manager for Meadville Housing Corporation, an organization providing safe, affordable housing at below market rents for 285 rental units. I've been active in the community, first through United Way for 35 years, and as a Big Sister. I served on Big Brothers and Sisters Board and chaired fundraising events like Bowl for Kids' Sake. I have twice served as board president for the Meadville Association of Realtors and represented the board at the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors in Harrisburg. For the past 4 years, my dedicated volunteers and I have organized the Jimmy Moore Party, and I have solicited funds from a very generous public. The Jimmy Moore Party is an event to enable disadvantaged families to have food and toys for Christmas for their children. I serve as an officer on the Active Aging Foundation and Center for Family Services, which is a nonprofit organization administering numerous programs designed to help those in need. The center has worked tirelessly helping folks through the COVID crisis for the past year and a half. During my 8 years I've served on council, I have personally witnessed the economic challenges facing Meadville citizens. Sacrifices have been made by the city, including the right sizing of staff and judicious capital borrowing to keep these services available while keeping costs down. We need fiscally responsible council members who are experienced with reading and balancing budgets. As a United Way board member, I reviewed budgets for over 28 agencies, and as a past council member, I oversaw 8 balanced, responsible budgets which allowed the city to provide needed services to its constituents. I have always supported balanced budgets with no property tax increase while maintaining the infrastructure and protective services that residents need and deserve. Our citizens need a strong police department and a professional fire and emergency services department. We need well-maintained streets to facilitate the flow of commerce and to provide our residents with safe, reliable means to conduct their business affairs. I am asking for another opportunity to serve the citizens of Meadville as their representative on City Council. I pledge my best efforts to continue your needs and govern the city we love in a manner that continues the excellent service provided to our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next up, Jim Rowe. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Active Aging, Armstrong Cable, and the Meadville Tribune for hosting this forum. My name is Jim Rowe, and Meadville is my home. Currently, I'm a member of Meadville City Council, and I'm asking you for the opportunity to continue serving you in that capacity. My experience in city government spans a period of more than 40 years. I'm retired from a 20-year career with a large multinational corporation, and serving as a city councilman is my way of giving back to the community that has nurtured me. I grew up in Meadville, attended Meadville schools, graduated from Allegheny College, and pursued additional studies at Edinburgh, the American Institute of Banking, Pitt Titusville, and Penn State Barron. I've taken many appraising and real estate continuing ed courses from institutes and schools. My academic background includes studies in finance, economics, accounting, law, and real estate brokerage and appraising. I'm a licensed real estate instructor, and I teach for a school in Cranberry Township. I'm currently licensed as an associate broker in real estate and as a certified residential appraiser. In the past, I've taught real estate courses from Penn State, Villa Maria College, Gannett University, and a private real estate school. And now, I'm currently a seated member of City Council. 44 years in real estate and city government has taught me a great deal. First, the problems facing a city like Meadville are identical, not different, to the problems facing other Pennsylvania cities. Second, the solution to those problems cannot be fully implemented until the Pennsylvania legislature enacts enabling legislation. And in some 40-some years, they have not demonstrated any inclination to do so. The issues from 1974 are the issues of today and will be the issues of 2045 absent legislative or constitutional intervention. Third, Meadville's extraordinarily large tax-exempt assessment base causes more potential challenges to us than other cities in the region experience. But we are in a much better financial position because we have exercised fiscal restraint and we continue to address the issues which need to be addressed. I have the background, the experience, and the time to dedicate to Meadville City Council, and I ask you to let me continue to serve you as an elected member. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Marcy Kantz, you're up.
I also would like to thank the Meadville Tribune, Active Aging, and Armstrong, and the voters at home watching. Voters of Meadville, I was born and raised in Meadville. I left in 1987 to pursue a college education and a career as an air traffic controller. A decade later, I returned home to raise my children. I care very deeply about this town. It's home to my fondest memories. For the past several years, I have been immersed in pursuing a career that would best provide for my family here in Meadville. After a few career changes, I found my niche as the owner of a new daycare center in downtown Meadville. For more information on my background, education, work experience, please go to my website, marcykantzformayor.com. I was fine with the direction Mayor Leroy Stearns and City Council were taking us. I was focusing on my family. I wasn't tuned into local politics, but that changed when Leroy was taken out of the primaries. I made a call to Mayor Stearns and we spoke for some time. It was midsummer and too late to get on the ballot, but I decided to challenge the then unopposed mayor candidate. I believe and still do that Meadville residents should have a choice, and I am that choice. I have worked very hard these last 2.5 months, learning as much as I could about the city and campaigning with a group of Republican and Democrat supporters. Nancy, Jim, and I are fighting a battle to keep our city out of the grips of a progressive political movement. We do not want to radically change the way in which we govern our city. What we do want is to balance the budget and provide our residents, small business owners, corporations, and nonprofits with the services and environment they need to succeed. We want to continue with our Parks Improvement Plan and work with the Economic Progress Alliance to bring life to the French Creek Conservation and Entertainment Project. A project that I believe could be the economic engine that would breathe new life into our struggling city. Nancy, Jim, and I are not backed or trained by a political action committee. We are independent candidates backed by local donors, and we will work hard for all of Meadville residents, not just a special interest group. We think that our hometown values, work ethic, experience, and education is best suited for Meadville. We are asking for your vote on November 2nd. I will not be on the ballot, so please write in Marcy Kantz, MARCYKANTZ, for mayor on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kinder, you're up.
I would also like to thank the Meadville Tribune, Armstrong, for putting this on. I'd like to thank all of the volunteers that support myself, Gretchen, and Jack, and have knocked on 3,000 doors here in town. My name is Jamie Kinder, and as you may know, I'm running for mayor here in Meadville. My family's lived here for many generations. My grandmother, Frances McCracken, she sat on the first school board here at MASH. And my mother, Helen Westcott, McCracken at that point, she was on the second year to graduate out of Meadville. I have a large and diverse family in the area. Odds are you know one of us, you lived by one of us, or you worked with one of us. We range from Browns, Westcotts, Reams, and Favelas. We all stayed here in Meadville or came back to Meadville and chose to raise our children here, raise our families in the same schools and on the same streets that we grew up on. We are invested in Meadville. Contrary to the deliberate misinformation being spread about me, I am a qualified candidate. Not just because I own a thriving business downtown, or because I have 20 years business management experience. And not just because I attended Edinburgh University as a single mother and an adult student, majoring in sociology and minoring in African American studies. I'm a qualified candidate because I live here in Meadville. Because I know we can't keep doing the same things over and over again. We cannot keep electing the same people over and over again and expecting a different outcome. New ideas require new leaders. New leaders who listen to the people, who can relate to the everyday struggles that the people who live here in Meadville go through. The election is not about me. It's about us and what we can do to make a better Meadville for everyone. No one can change the direction of the city alone. The only way is to come together. So I'm here asking you to vote for Meadville. I'm asking you to vote for Jamie, Jack, and Gretchen on November 2nd. Because ultimately, we are better together.
All right, thank you. Well, again, we're going to begin the questioning. We'll start with Ms. Myers. We'll give the candidates up to 2 minutes each to answer the question. We'll go right down the dais. Just a reminder, you might see me doing this. That means they've got about 30 seconds to go, and then the red card's kind of like soccer. You got to stop. So, but hopefully we'll be friendly here and we'll go forward. I will take the first question, and Gretchen, we'll start with you. What areas of Meadville's budget do you feel are either overfunded or underfunded?
Well, personally, you know, I haven't looked at like line items because I've never been on city council, but I know that we're running a skeleton crew, and I know that our police and fire department are very important. I actually am looking more towards hoping that we can increase revenues. So I would be looking, like Jim had suggested, into the pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes that are nonprofits, since they are tax exempt, they make a gift to that, or, you know, to the city. So I guess I'm looking more like, how can we increase revenues? In addition to that, currently we are looking and considering home rule, which would allow us more flexibility so that we wouldn't have to increase property taxes. Again, I'm just going to go back to, it seems to me from everything I've heard that we're running a real skeleton crew. The only other thing that I've thought about is to look to city staff and ask them, you know, how can we do this? I think, you know, that relationship is very important with city council. Obviously, they're the people that are managing the city. That's really all I have. I just don't really see that we have any room to cut any place. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I think the part of the budget, obviously we've had to do a lot of borrowing in order to pave streets and maintain streets. The cost of living raises for the police and the fire. Those are just normal cost of living raises that we have to have. I think that the budget probably needs to increase in the city streets department. I mean, we have a lot of streets that are still in dire shape. It's sad that we had to make cuts to our employees, but when you live in a city, your job is to provide services. People expect fire, police, and their streets taken care of. And unfortunately, when you have an aging population paying, and only about 46% are paying property taxes, because we are, as Jim mentioned, the nonprofit capital here, the county, there's not much room to grow. We can't really, I'm not sure that the home rule is the answer. I have to look more into that. But you can't keep taxing the older folks in this town, the people that own the real estate. They can't maintain their properties and make improvements that need done. Or if the city puts a lien on their house because they need a sidewalk done, what are they going to choose if they need a furnace put in, or they have to put the streets, fix the sidewalks? So we have to be fiscally responsible, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't affect our basic services, which we live in a city for: police, fire, and the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, again, the question is, what areas of Meadville's budget do you feel are overfunded or underfunded?
Nothing is overfunded and nothing is underfunded. We could do some more streets. We've had an aggressive program the last couple of years. We paved about 7.5 miles of streets. There are roughly 60 miles of streets in Meadville. So that's pretty significant in a 2-year period. It would be nice if we were able to afford to do more. We get some of that money from capital borrowing, some of it from liquid fuels, some of it from the federal, state, local, or local route money, and again, capital borrowing. There's like 4 different pots for that. As we've already said, the problem is, how can you keep raising taxes on people who are barely making it as it is? The per capita income in Meadville is dramatically less than that in the county and the state. Roughly, we're talking about minimum wage. And on minimum wage, if someone gave you a house for free, you would still struggle to be able to keep it, pay the taxes and the utilities. So you have a choice. Do you heat or do you eat? And that's a rather stark choice. If you have to pay taxes, and we keep raising taxes to fund services, we're not splurging on our fees, but every year the cost goes up. The cost of government goes up by at least $1 million. That's just inflation. And in some areas it goes up considerably more than that. So we need to look at effective ways of doing business and effective ways of raising revenues without hurting the people, and I would say user fees would do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We're going to have to cut you off at that point. I'm sorry. Marcy?
Okay, well, I'm clearly not going to argue with the expert to my right. So the facts are that we are running a deficit in our city, and that the percentage of our debt service is going up each year. The deficit was somewhere around $650,000, and we are filling the gaps with cash reserves. We obviously need to turn this around somehow, and I believe that we may have to cut spending on some services, and that could be decided by obviously a group effort with council. I know that we can increase efficiencies in city operations. We are underutilizing our GIS system, and that paired with software could increase our efficiencies in the city. Obviously, that would take some time and effort, but that is definitely something that we need to do, as well as expand our tax base. And I believe that the French Creek project is a viable option for that. Keith, you've reported on that a couple of times. I saw articles in the paper in 2019 and again in 2020. If anyone's not familiar with that, you might want to Google the French Creek Project. And I believe that the duty of elected officials is to do what is fiscally responsible for the city as a whole. So that means that we need to find reserves, build reserves, and increase revenue in order to continue to support our city, because prices are going up, inflation is increasing, and our city expenses are going to increase more so over the next few years.
All right, thank you. Jamie, you're up.
Again, I gotta agree with Jim. I don't think that we're overspending on anything. Like Gretchen said, we are running a skeleton crew. I do not believe that cutting services or people is the way to go. I do understand that you know, we have a problem on our hands, and it's not a today problem. This is a problem that's been going on for quite some time. So I think that we're going to solicit the city. We're going to solicit the people here. We're going to ask them what some of their ideas are. We are going to look for new ways of revenue. Again, from the pilot program, we're going to ask our nonprofits to pay about 30%. We're going to look into things like flat rate service user fees and look into federal assistance programs, and we're going to try to do a better job of collecting unpaid taxes. But I know that our first step needs to be getting the answers from the people who live here. Participatory budgeting, asking them how we need to spend our money. Again, I do not believe cutting services or cutting people is the way to go. A skeleton crew that we're running, you know, the people who work here, they do understand, you know, how to work this way. They're doing a wonderful job with very little. And once we ask them, do some town halls, ask them what their opinions are, we will start finding solutions to our problems.
Thank you. Our next question, Rick will read, and then we'll start with Nancy.
City of Meadville requires all visitors, regardless of vaccination status, to wear a mask in the city building. If elected, would you support requiring all city employees to be vaccinated by a certain date? And what about contractors working for the city?
Well, I've been vaccinated. I have my husband has a heart condition, and I love him dearly, and so I immediately got my shot, both shots. And where I work, I have a lot of people coming in and out, so I personally am done myself. I do believe that there are some people that they should check with their doctor, and if there's some reason why they can't get it, I think that's a problem. But I believe all people should be, if they're mandated, they should wear their mask. I have a personal friend that's in a nursing home, and I can say that more times than not, she's shut down, and it's very upsetting to me not to be able to go visit her. I believe that if you work in a nursing establishment especially, that you should be vaccinated. Our loved ones are in there, sometimes in the last stages of their life, and I think that they should have the benefits of seeing their family and loved ones during that time. So I'm in favor of vaccines and masks.
Okay. Jim?
I'm vaccinated. I had COVID and I'm vaccinated, so I've had all the immunities. And when I'm eligible, I'll get the booster shot. I think it's a responsible thing to do. Whether someone should be mandated to be vaccinated, I have a bit more of a problem with that. I don't think it's necessarily prudent on their part, but if they take the appropriate precautions and stay away from other people and have like an N95 mask, it's probably acceptable for them to continue work. We can't keep people out of the city building, members of the public, because they're not vaccinated. If we're going to hold open meetings, can we say you can't come in? You don't have a vaccination? So by the same token, how are you going to treat other members of the public any differently?
Okay. Marcy?
I do not believe in mandating the vaccine. I would not be for that. I do not, I agree with wearing masks in nursing homes and hospitals, and I don't have a problem with that at all. I do have a problem with a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate. I do not believe that we should force people to get the vaccine. Oftentimes they've already had COVID and they have the antibodies. And I do believe that that is a viable option for people. And I think it should be an individual choice.
Okay. Jamie?
I absolutely believe in masks. I believe that if me wearing a mask is going to help anyone, keep anyone from being sick, I mean, I'm absolutely happy to do so. I think that, if we have a mask mandate, I will absolutely support it. I have a mask rule at my own shop here in town. I have had COVID, and I believe that everyone here should be responsible enough to wear masks to help their fellow person in Meadville. I mean, if it's going to help somebody's health, absolutely wear it. As far as vaccination mandates, if somebody will not hire you because you don't have a vaccination, that's your choice. You either choose to get the vaccine or you don't get the job there. I mean, that's kind of how that goes. If you don't wear a mask, you don't go into a place that requires a mask. And you do still have a choice with that. So that's kind of where I stand.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Hi. The question was about masks, right, in the city? Yeah, sorry, I was like, wait, we kind of went on.
Yeah, I can just repeat it.
Yeah, could you repeat it one more
If elected, would you
time?
support
Because my brain
requiring
started to go to
city
masks.
employees
Yeah.
to be vaccinated by a certain date?
Oh, for city employees to be
Yeah.
vaccinated by a certain date. Exactly. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go back with the masking thing. I definitely believe in wearing masks also, and I am vaccinated. I think mandating vaccines, that seems like that could get a little, I just am thinking about all the exceptions. There are so many exceptions. I think that in the building, the city should support mask wearing, absolutely, for sure. I would hope that people would take the responsibility. I'm also vaccinated, so for me, it's a matter of responsibility. I would hope that we would reach to standards like the Meadville Medical Center, that we are like taking care of our community. I also, though, respect a person's right to choose on. It is a free country, so I'm just leave it like that, I guess. Thanks.
Okay. All right, our next question, I believe goes to Jim.
Starts with
We have 6 people running for 3 seats. 3 people will not be elected. If you happen to be one of the ones that does not get elected, do you anticipate still trying to be a force in improving Meadville?
Absolutely. I serve on some boards and have for years. I would continue to do so. I used to write an opinion column. Maybe I would go back to doing that again in the future. And I am never afraid to express my opinion to elected officials, whether they want to hear it or not. So, yeah, the short answer is yes.
Okay. Marcy?
Sure, I would definitely be interested in our city and the way it's governed. I would definitely consider as serving on boards as well. However, I do hope that I'm serving on city council, but if not, I would not dismiss looking at other boards or opportunities in the city of Meadville.
Okay. Jamie?
Absolutely. I have been volunteering with grassroots organizations here in town for many years. I would be happy to keep working on Meadville. There are a lot of people who are doing some really amazing things and have done some really great things. And it has resulted in beautifying Meadville, making Meadville a better place, trying to make it so that more poor people can own homes and fighting the good fight here in Meadville. And it doesn't stop at, being a council member. Your responsibility to Meadville is every day, and it is ongoing, and everyone wants to live in the best Meadville there can be.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yes, I definitely would. I know that I was at the city council meeting when they were talking about home rule, and we need a citizen committee to work on that. And I was talking with Terry afterwards, and she was saying that, what you really want to look for with people on that committee are probably like people like us who really love the city and are really committed. So I would actually really want to be on that committee, because I think it will help us solve a lot of problems, again, because of property taxes being a real issue in town. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Nancy?
Yes, I would continue to do what I've done for over 50 years. I think I represent and know what the people in the city want for the younger children. That's why I participate in the Jimmy Moore for people buying homes. Center for Family Service does a wonderful job at helping low-income folks try to find their first home, and that's one of the reasons I got on their board. Secondly, the help that they give people in the rental industry when they're having shortfall. And then I got on active aging because I'm actively aging myself, and I have a lot of elderly friends, and I care deeply about them and their ability to be able to stay in their home and pay their taxes, and those in nursing homes, that their rights are being taken care of. So yes.
Thank you.
All right, our next question, we start with Marcy. All of you have had experience in business one way or another, whether working for someone, your own business, what have you. The city operates under a lot of tight budgets. I know we've been talking about this. What financial skills do you bring to the city if you're elected to council?
Well, I personally run 3 businesses with my husband, in conjunction with my husband. We have a couple of rental properties, and I also run the daycare. We have 26 enrolled right now, and I started that from scratch. And I also run the operations of the gym that we own, which is Keystone Strength, and we have 350 plus members at the gym as well. Besides that, I have a bachelor's degree and an MBA. So I have financial experience in education. I also worked alongside my dad for many, many years in his business. I'm a fiscal conservative. I always make sure there are cash reserves in all of my businesses. We employ around 10 people between the daycare and the gym. I do the payroll for that as well. And I also have banking experience. I worked for PNC as a personal banker for 2 years, and I also sold insurance, which is a complicated business, passing the state exam for that as well. And I also have a real estate license, which also has finance in it as well.
All right, thank you. Jamie?
So the question was, could you repeat the question?
Yes. The city's been under a lot of tight budgets the last few years. If you're elected to council, what financial skills do you bring to the city if you're elected?
Well, I'm a single mom. I have been taking care of 3 kids for, many years. When my budget doesn't meet what I need, I mean, there have been, I've done a budget and it has been in a $398 deficit for the month. So what I've done is I created a new job and a new revenue stream. I started a small business out of my home, baking cakes, so that I can continue to live, I can continue to support my children, and I can also raise them, because, I have to do that also. So not only have I done that once, I've done that twice. I had a home-based daycare, I have worked, and I have made sure to make money where there seems like there is none. I have 20 years of business management experience. I have worked in HR, I have managed retail stores, I have sold furniture, I have supervised, from supervising at the college, 80 people to supervising at a nursing home, and that was 2 people. So when it comes to budgets and things like that, I've been there. I have done budgets, and I have somehow still survived.
All right, thank you. Gretchen?
Thanks, Keith. Well, let's see. I guess I would probably start with my business, Allegro Dance Art. So, like some of us here, if you have your own business, I wrote a business plan, and in that you had to do cash flow statements. I approached what was then the Redevelopment Authority and applied for a loan, so I know how to go through that whole process and present my business plan to somebody. We're familiar with payroll, all the elements of that. Again, cash flow, profit and loss, talking accountant language. I actually worked for an accountant in Denver while I was dancing for 2 years, and so I've done taxes for other businesses before. Oh gosh, and I actually, when I was living in Denver, I started my own business. It was called Dance in the Schools, and so I had to apply for a license and go through that whole process, which a lot of us here again are familiar with. So I think I got pretty much everything there. Thanks.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, when I started as office manager for a law firm for 30 years, we had a budget that I was responsible to maintain. And my current job, I work with the executive director to make sure that we were maintaining our budget. I've sold real estate for over 43 years and helped folks with budgeting. The tenants that I've taken care of up at Meadville Housing for over 21 years, a lot of times need budgeting help. The agencies that I sit on, Center for Family and Active Aging, have budgeting and profit loss statements we review monthly. Again, when I was on United Way, there were over 28 agencies that we had to review their budgets. And finally, I oversaw 8 city budgets. So I think I have quite a bit of experience with budgeting.
Thank you. Jim?
Thank you. Numbers are what I do. I've been appraising since I was 4 years old, and I helped my dad. I'd hold the dumb end of the tape. Some people say I still hold the dumb end of the tape. I have a background in accounting and finance, economics, appraising, and brokerage. I've done 12 budgets for the city. Because I've been serving on and off for a number of years, I am aware, I have a history of Meadville. For example, I was the last person who remembered that the DEP building could be acquired by the city for $1. Okay, so we got a multi-million-dollar chunk of capital property for $1. When I looked at the taxes on that and the city building at 984 Water Street, I realized they were overassessed. I asked council to appeal the assessments. We saved probably about $200,000 a year in taxes. That's money you don't have to raise taxes on for the general public, because it's not going out of the coffers. I serve on the finance committee for the city, and I hope to continue to do so if reelected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Jamie. There's been discussion by various candidates here about Allegheny, Westbury City, Meadville Medical Center, rather, holding title to a significant chunk of property that's tax exempt. So they're not paying property taxes on a lot of it. There are some things that they pay taxes on, depending on the function of the property. Now, are you willing to engage in discussions with having these entities contribute money to the city? But there's a caveat to that, because this summer we saw Allegheny College cut 36 positions in a cost-cutting move. There were 12, if I remember off the top of my head, 12 were open, and then there were 24 positions they eliminated. So how is this going to work if the nonprofits are hurting, so to speak, financially? We're going to go and ask them for more money. So, Jamie, we'll start.
You know, absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer to ask the nonprofits to participate in the pilot program. Again, that's the payment in lieu of taxes. Allegheny already does, and a lot of these nonprofits do pay some, you know, property tax on some things, and it gets complicated there, but what we're asking and what we're hoping for is 30%. That is going to help us immensely, and you know, it really isn't fair that you know, 50% or a little over 50% of the, you know, people who own property tax are footing 100% of the bill. So absolutely we need to talk, and absolutely we need to open up dialogue and figure out those ways to bring in more revenue and bring in that money back into our city so that we can keep thriving and again make the best Meadville we can have.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Right. Yeah, that is a conundrum with Allegheny, especially. I don't think that the other nonprofits are going through that situation. Not to my knowledge anyway, nothing has come out like that. And I know that Allegheny is trying to downsize as well. I think that Jamie's right. You know, I think we need to foster that relationship and approach it in terms of a partnership, because those nonprofits are our bankers and they're our partners in the city. There's a possibility that maybe we could look at doing fees, possibly like a fire fee. The other thing, Jim had a brilliant idea, I thought. Jim had a city council meeting, which was maybe if they made a donation towards a vehicle, like the street sweeper could say Westbury, much like at the Mark, because we know that the Meadville Medical Center and the Mark really are big supporters of the Mark. So that's really, I agree with what Jamie said, maybe fees, come up with some great ideas. Thank you.
Nancy?
The last 4 years I served on council, I was on the committee, and we met with all the nonprofits to determine their ability to pay. And they were very strapped. We did not make much progress in that. Mayor Soff at the time and I sit on that committee. There were some churches that had 3 people in their church. They were just trying to maintain their church. So I think 30% is just something that will just never happen. I also went in with that as, you know, the same type of, why is Allegheny and why is the hospital not paying any taxes? I was very irate about it at the time. And I soon learned that I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. When I went up for these meetings, they do a lot in the city that we're not aware of. And you find that out when you see it. I would certainly commend Meadville Medical Center during this pandemic for what they did. The fact that they got as many people done in the time they did, the places they rented, the things they went through, their staff worked 12-hour shifts. It's just commendable what they have done for this community. And Allegheny, I mean, it's not just that they're laying people off. They lay people off when they don't have enough students coming in. So you have to look at the whole picture when you're doing this. Once again, I think they tried to collaborate with us on certain projects, and there are some projects I think we can collaborate on. And when I was on council, we were very careful that some of the property that they picked up, they had to be careful that they couldn't make profits on it without paying taxes. We would tax those properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Thank you. Some nonprofits do pay pilots, and pilot, of course, is the payment in lieu of taxes. Yes, there are nonprofits that are financially distressed, severely financially distressed, but is that really any different than an 89-year-old widow who's financially distressed and has to choose between paying taxes and skipping a meal every day for 30 days? There really is no substantive difference between the two. Now, is there a solution? Sure, there are two solutions. One, change the Constitution of Pennsylvania to allow municipalities to charge for tangible municipal services. 25 years ago, former Councilman Nichols and I addressed the House Local Government Subcommittee on that very topic. Another one is to change by adding one sentence, maybe two, to the Municipal Authorities Act of 1938, which would enable you to create authorities of 2 or 3 entities that are currently departments of a city. But the caveat is both of these require initial action by the state legislature, and they've not shown any inclination. I've spoken with legislators about this. They've shown no inclination or interest. We had one individual representative introduce legislation that would help us with tax exempts by giving a portion of the liquor tax to communities. That came out of committee nearly 2 years ago and has been tabled since then. No action at all.
Thank you. Marcy?
Okay, so as you can see, it's a complicated process. There are rules and laws that we have to abide by when it comes to our nonprofits, as Jim just explained. And so if that's not a viable option, the city and our residents need to realize that the nonprofits do support the city. They support us with services and jobs, and hence why they don't pay property taxes, because they're nonprofits. However, these nonprofits do want to invest in Meadville. It's to their benefit to invest in Meadville. When they invest in Meadville, it helps them pull talent and leaders into their organizations. So when they help us increase or become a thriving city, it's better for them because it will be easier for them to draw talent and leaders to our city, which is not easy to do for Meadville Medical Center and Allegheny College. They are competing with other colleges and other medical institutions. So I believe that we need to team up with our nonprofits, and specifically with the French Creek Corridor Project. This could be the economic engine that our city needs. And I believe, and I know for a fact that Allegheny and Meadville Medical Center and other large corporations would be willing to invest in this opportunity, this vision that one of our local executives came up with several years ago. So that's one way of looking at it, to know that they are willing to invest in Meadville.
Thank you. Stop at that point. Rick's up with our next question.
Okay, we're going to reset and start with Gretchen with this question. Outside of some holidays and second Saturday events, which draw big crowds to downtown Meadville, what can be done to attract more visitors to the city?
Well, actually, I think that project that Marcy's talking about, the corridor, I mean, it's kind of it's a really cool thing. I think, bringing in, organizing around our great environment that we have here in town would be a really great thing. I also appreciate everything that the Meadville Independent Business Alliance has done with the like the fashion shows. Gosh, events. This is one, let me think. That one caught me off guard. I think that we really have some good events actually here currently. Gosh, I'd have to really think about that. That's my really great answer. I'm not, I'm just like drawing a blank right now. I kind of wish I wasn't first on this one. Let me think real quick if I have any thoughts. Gosh, we have like really great events here. Like, I guess I would say, I would probably go with, let's ask people, like who's got a vision? Like quite clearly there's some vision in the community, and I would just definitely support that. Thanks.
Nancy?
Will you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry.
Outside of like holidays and, where they have events like the Halloween parade coming
Yeah.
up and second Saturdays, there's sometimes, just some difficulty getting people downtown. What type of ideas would you like to see the city do to attract more visitors?
Okay. Well, I think the pandemic this past year worked against us, but I was a little concerned. I went to the Market House this past Saturday, and there was nobody in the Market House, and that concerned me. I remember when the restaurant was open down there, I would go down, have breakfast, go visit all the shops in the Market House, and then go visit some of the other areas. So I think we need to get the Market House back open again. I don't know what happened there, but there's some issues there that I think need addressing because it starts there. You used to see the farmers down there. People go down early in the morning. They spend their morning down there, and they spend money in downtown Meadville. As to events, the balloon event hopefully will come back. I mean, we have the parade, which brings a big crowd. The Thurston Classic, sorry for Ted Watts' demise, but that was a great event that we had that brought a lot of people. Those are two that come to mind.
Okay. Jim?
Over the years, I've seen Meadville have a very busy, active, productive downtown. Then plazas came along. After that, malls came along. That was followed by big box stores, now by online shopping. The whole method of supply chain logistics is changing. If we're going to survive, we need to adapt and need to reinvent downtown. Former Mayor Petruso made a statement years ago. He said, it would be very productive for downtown to have the staple items that people need. Hardware stores, things you don't get dressed up to go to the hardware store. You might get dressed up to go to the mall, but not to the hardware store. We need hardware. We need grocery stores. We need some specialty shops. All of those could be in a new, reinvented downtown, and that would involve public-private partnerships. I agree with Nancy. The Market House lunch should be open for breakfast, and they should feature sausage, gravy, and biscuits every single day. Unfortunately, they've chosen not to open until noon on Saturdays, so breakfast is out. Thanks.
Thank you. Marcy?
Well, I agree with Nancy and Jim that the Market House needs attention and could bring crowds back to Meadville. It is almost in the center of our downtown. I also think that we should work alongside the Chamber of Commerce, Meadville Independent Business Alliance, and the My Meadville to work with them to help them have events. They are idea people, and we should support them in their efforts to bring people to downtown. I know that Chris Soff had a campaign just to promote Meadville. Maybe we need a campaign to promote the downtown, to shop local. I know that a lot of people have changed their shopping habits just due to COVID to help our local businesses, our boutiques, our small restaurants. And I think we should continue promoting that as well. And then the big one that would bring people to downtown is obviously the French Creek Corridor. That could be huge. It's obviously a multi-million-dollar project that would have to involve our nonprofits, but that is the point of that project. It brings people to Meadville. It gives a reason to come to Meadville, and we are in a geographic prime location to be north of Pittsburgh and to have Cleveland and Buffalo and Erie all around us. And we have the opportunity to bring people into Meadville, lots of people.
Thank you. Jamie?
I guess I'm a little biased. I think a lot of the things that go on here are pretty amazing. We have small events and large events, and I agree with some of the things that Marcy said and Jim said, and we've got Thunder in the City, we've got the Chamber, we've got the Business Alliance, we've got people working together to really create a great atmosphere. We've got Second Saturdays and First Fridays, and you've got poetic evenings, and you've got all of these different events that go on all the time. We had the Diversity Expo, and I think that even with COVID, we are doing some crazy great things here. You've got cool businesses coming in and new restaurants, and I've been, to JT's Steam Table and Kettle Lake Kitchen, and which is not a breakfast place, but in the evening, man, that place is bustling and it's beautiful and the food is excellent. And I think we need to promote these places. I think that we need to bring businesses in. We need to let people know what we have, because Meadville's a cool place and people love it here. And spending a Saturday downtown, the Market House needs some more things in it, and we need to work through that. But in the summer, they do have Second Saturdays, and they do have the market. And, I love to come down and see what people are doing, the concerts. And so, we need to keep doing what we've been doing, and we need to promote what we all have and bring in maybe some more new businesses.
Thank you. Nancy, this next question's you can start with. Many businesses don't have their own lot parking as a convenience for customers. Do you think there's a shortage of business parking in the city? And if so, what would be a solution?
There is a shortage of parking. I think that's something that we need to work on. We started working on it the last time I was on council, because I'm trying to come up with a budget number that we had, and we couldn't sustain the budget without the revenue from the parking. Parking in Meadville is certainly a lot cheaper than it is in Erie or Pittsburgh or anywhere else. I think that there are several projects that are going on right now that will take down a few buildings to make more parking on Market Street, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, I think there's a shortage in Meadville. I'm not sure what we do to make up revenue for that. We did try to give free parking to like through the Christmas season, and what we found was that they were marking tires, and some of the employees were using the parking spots, and so it wasn't helping the businesses any. So that didn't really solve anything. So it's an ongoing problem for sure.
Thank you. Jim.
Okay, people have talked about free parking. Of course, free parking is not free. Is there a shortage? Most times there is a shortage of parking, or there's a shortage of the desirable parking. People don't want to use a lot that we have down on Water Street that is 600 feet from the post office. That's not very far to walk, but people don't want to use that. That lot is basically, it's vacant all the time. So people want choice spots to park, and I would hope that the patrons of downtown would have those choice spots rather than employees downtown monopolizing them. If you wanted free parking, it would cost about a 15% increase in your local property taxes to implement free parking. As it is, parking costs about $331,000 a year, and that's if you don't buy another lot. If you buy another lot, and if you put a capital reserve together so that you can do major repairs or ultimately demolition of the parking garage, which would create a bigger problem, then your rates would go up even more. So whether you rent or buy, you're going to be paying more in taxes or indirectly in rents.
Okay, thank you. Marcy?
We do have a shortage. I don't know to what extent we do. I know that I am currently short one parking space. And I let all my employees park, and then my brother and I take turns blocking each other in the back of the building. However, I do know that there is some parking available down at the parking garage. I've been contemplating purchasing one of those. However, it's a little bit of a distance, but I do agree with Jim that we do need to learn to walk a little further than we typically like to. So I think that a comprehensive study of the parking situation needs to be done in Meadville, and that we need to be extremely careful regarding the parking situation, because we don't want to take a prime parking spot, or let's say we take a blighted building and we knock it down and we make it a parking garage or lot. And then a few years down the road, we're doing some development in Meadville, and we have found that that was a mistake. And if that's a mistake, that's a costly mistake. So we need to redesign or do a parking study in order to intelligently decide where our parking issues are and how to fix them with redevelopment in Meadville in mind. And then as for the meters, I think that we can do better with the meters. I think we can either do pay stations such as Erie, or we could implement an application that is on your mobile phone, and that it's called Easy Pay, and that's something that Erie uses as well. It has low startup costs because you use the current meters, and you can actually go online and see how it's used on your phone. It's very user friendly. But I do have a concern with our senior citizens when it comes to that process.
We'll have to stop you there, unfortunately. Jamie?
Jamie?
So, yeah, I think that people are willing to walk. I think that once they get to know, that there are spaces available on Water Street, if there's always spaces available on Water Street, they know that, they'll start walking. We've got a lot of great stuff downtown that's worth walking for, and I'm not a fan of knocking down retail space. Spaces where possibly businesses could be, or somebody is getting ready to put a business in and making a parking lot. I feel like eventually Meadville's going to be a bunch of parking lots and not any retail space, and who's going to come for that? So yeah, I mean it looks like there's an issue, but I agree with Marcy. There needs to be a study. Maybe we're just overlooking something, and that's where maybe a citizen council might come in. Maybe that's where we ask the residents who live here, what do you guys think? What do you think the solution is? And, can we do better? And that's where we solicit some of our solutions. They're experts at living in Meadville. They're the ones we should be asking and getting their participation in this. I do not think that keeping them out of the loop is the way to go. So, yeah, let's do a study. Let's get them involved and ask some questions and figure it out.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yeah, I think these are great ideas. I think a study would be great. I know I was thinking about projections for Meadville, is that, for Crawford County, that we're going to continue to shrink just as a part of a state trend with rural counties. And so I think looking ahead, we don't want to invest in something that years down is going to be a poor investment. We don't want to chew up a space that could be a business. That would not be good at all. I think, I know since COVID, for my business personally, parking hasn't been as much of an issue. There just doesn't seem, but again, I work in the evenings, from 4 o'clock on. So it seems like the foot traffic, there's just not as many cars out. So around, in my neck of the woods, it doesn't seem to be an issue. Is that because of the pandemic? Is that a trend? I'm kind of inclined to think it's mostly the pandemic, hopefully that we're not really shrinking that much. So I think these are all really good ideas. I just think, get a study going, look to the demographics, look to the fact that we are shrinking and we are getting older in terms of the county. I think the Easy Pass is a great idea. Maybe there's a senior discount for elderly. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Jim. And there's been some talk in the campaign about the possibility of a rental housing inspection program in the city. Now, the city's already got a property maintenance code which covers all properties, not just rental properties. Please explain why or why not the city's property maintenance code is adequate in your opinion.
The property maintenance code is adequate. I had occasion the other day driving down my street to see a refrigerator on its side with one door off and one door on, which of course is a safety hazard. I contacted City Hall, and a property inspector came up there, must have cited the people because the next day it was gone. The property maintenance and inspectors will respond to specific complaints. So if someone has, say, a leaky roof, we don't know that there's a leaky roof unless you tell us. Call, say, I have a leaking roof. This property is not fit for habitability. Okay. The tenants have other remedies. They can't just stop paying rent, but they have other remedies. Now, if you enact property maintenance code, you're going to end up hurting some of the people, or a stricter one, hurting some of the people that you intend to help. Because if you have aggressive enforcement, you're going to drive the costs of repair up, and that will be transmitted to the tenants in the form of higher rent. So you're not really solving a problem. If you target rental properties and not owner-occupied properties, I think that would be a separate issue, and you'd have to consider the fundamental fairness of that sort of approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy?
I agree with Jim that the code in place, the system, the process in place is adequate. Renters right now have the ability to call the fire department and request that a home or their property is inspected. I have spoken with the fire department and they are not overwhelmed with calls. However, I'm not saying that there's not obvious problems. There could be problems, but tenants may not be aware that this system exists. And I can tell you that I spoke with several people that rent that did not know that this system existed. I do believe that a rental inspection program would put undue expense and time. It would be a time-consuming process for a lot of our good landlords, and that the code enforcement inspection process right now, the fire department is tasked with that. That is part of their duty, and they are not overwhelmed with calls. So therefore, I tend to think that either our tenants are not educated about the process, we need to educate them about the process. And if for some reason they have fears that the landlords will retaliate with evicting them, that can't help it happen by laws. And we have free legal counsel here in Meadville, just on Chestnut Street, and we can let them know about that as well.
Thank you. Jamie?
Well, as everyone knows, Jack, Gretchen, and I are running on, three fundamental things, and a rental licensing program is one of them. I do believe that is the way to go. I believe that the city has an obligation to assure that each rental unit is safe, sanitary, and decent. I know that a lot of the area towns are already doing it. It's, Secrettown, Titusville, Erie, Oil City. The cost is minimal. It is $40 a year, right around, at least the ones that they're running. And that goes up to about $3 to $4 a month. So if the landlord wants to charge that to its renters, then so be it. I think that, running a business, you get a license. I think that every business should have a license, and owning property. As Marcia stated earlier, she runs a business owning and renting property. I think that just like my business, Evolution, and Gretchen's business, Allegro Dance, they should also get a license. I don't see the issue with that. I think that we should stop, treating them differently and treat them the same as every other business. I believe that everyone deserves dignity in where they live. We do have some issues here in Meadville, and we want to assure our residents that every single unit that they're looking at will be decent, will be safe. I don't think that's something extra to ask, and I don't think it's outlandish at all. I think it's common sense.
All right, thank you. Gretchen?
I do agree with Jamie that I think we should really look at a rental licensing program. You know, as you were saying, I actually have a dance hall license, and my business is inspected every year, and I think rentals are businesses. It's a business transaction, and I think just having a basic inspection that would be done similar to a business, so that a renter is going in knowing that their business, that they are going to be safe. I feel like that seems reasonable and fair, that beforehand you know that where you're living is safe. That, again, like Jamie pointed out, the program would be like $2 to $4 a month. I know I was reading in the letter to the editor today by Marcia Yohe, who I respect a lot for working with the Housing Authority. I think in terms of, you know, we might need to look at doing some subsidizing for people who, you know, if it is that much of a stress to pay that extra amount. For myself as a renter, I know I would have had great peace of mind to pay $2 to $4 a month to know that where I was living was safe.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, we're correct that Meadville already does have a property inspection program. There are 2 part-time property inspectors. The commercial buildings are done by the fire department. If the tenant has a problem, they just call the city inspector. I don't think it's as simple as we're trying to make it out here to be $2 to $4 a month. Number one, you wouldn't exempt the homeowners. You can't just do landlord properties, you'd have to do owner properties. I see tarps on owners' homes the same as I do anything else. So if you had to do all of the homes, then you're going to have to hire. Our 2 part-time would at the very least have to go to full-time. So now you're raising the budget, you're adding another $100,000. So it's not as simple as $2 to $4 a month. I have also heard from people who have this in Sagertown and in Erie, that some of the things that have happened to them is the inspector went in and said, these ceilings aren't high enough in your living room, in your kitchen, in your bedrooms. You need to raise the ceilings. The cost of that could easily force the landlord to shut the building down, in which case the tenant loses their home. Or if it's a homeowner, they might get a lien against their property, no longer in default on their mortgage. So it's not as simple as we're making this out to be. There's a lot more to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Drugs have been a serious issue in the community, not only in Meadville, Crawford County, but across the country. And drug abuse continues to be an issue in Meadville, ranging from overdoses to thefts and other crimes for people to pay for drugs. Get on council, how are you going to deal with this? Because we have overdose calls multiple times a day. If you listen on the scanner for the ambulance calls, how can city council deal with the drug abuse problem in Meadville? Marcy, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, I'm certainly not an expert on this topic. However, one thing that I know that we need to do, and that drugs bring into our city, is the criminal element. And I think our first priority as council is to keep our residents safe. And in order to do that, we have to have active, fully staffed police departments, because that's what makes cities safe. And our Meadville is currently a very safe city, and I attribute that to our police department, who has great relations with our community as well. And we need a proactive police department capable of responding for more than one call at a time. It has to be capable of responding to multiple calls, because our citizens need to know that when they call, that somebody's going to be there to help them. As for the drug problem, I'm not an expert on that. I would have to refer that to another council person for their opinion, or perhaps our nonprofits. I'm sure that they are better fit to answer that question for us.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
You know, I've been hit extremely hard with that. I lost, you know, people in my family, and yeah, there's a drug issue a lot across the country. I know we have some really great programs like Not One More here in town that is fighting the good fight. We've got some great programs like drug and alcohol. There are people that are able to be reached out to. I think that education for those programs is key. And, you know, I think that making sure we have the support to do so. Making sure our city is safe, absolutely. I think I said that in, and I think maybe we all agreed that nobody wants to cut services here. Having a fully staffed police force is of course one of those things. You know, our ambulance service does a wonderful job. And I think on all of those calls, I think even the fire department goes out to, you know, to those calls. And so having a fully staffed fire department is key also. But again, education, knowledge, things like Not One More and drug and alcohol, I think that they're helping us fight that, you know, on the front lines here in Meadville. And I think that possibly we need to make sure that we're listening to them when they need help and supporting them in those programs.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Well, you know, for me, and part of the course I took that was called Navigate Pennsylvania Government and Policy, and you know, we were looking at different issues, and one of the issues is it's drug addiction. And it just seems to me, and this is completely a personal thing, that behind addiction there's trauma and there's pain. And I know that we have a lot of services in town, and that it would be good if we could make that easier, more accessible, so that it isn't, you know, it isn't so difficult for people to even get counseling. I actually, you know, I have a friend who struggles with addiction, and just it's hard to go through all the hoops that are involved. If, you know, I guess it goes back for me to that compassionate governance, like let's take care of each other. You know, do you need a hand? I think that goes a long way. It is, you know, we obviously need people who are well qualified to understand that whole picture. I think that trauma-informed training, like for our police and for first responders, is a really, really useful tool. Thank you.
Nancy?
Yes, I would agree with that. In our police, that's why I support a fully staffed police department. They need the training. I remember a couple of years ago we did the fluoride town hall. This is where I would support a town hall. Maybe the medical center, getting with drug and alcohol and the other agencies, and coming up. And we need to be observant ourselves. I mean, through this COVID process, I'm sure we've all had friends who were suffering from depression. I know I was depressed because I couldn't leave my house. I was going to work and I was going home and going to work and coming home. So be aware of your friends and your family and people around you. And if you think they need help, give them help. We need to help each other. But this is where I think a Meadville Medical Center town hall with the appropriate agencies, and there's a ton of them, we could come up with some help for us there. And definitely police training for it. Thank you.
Jim?
At the end of the day, city government has 3 or 4 responsibilities. Maintaining and funding a professional police department, staffing and funding a professional fire department, paving, maintaining streets, and providing some green space in the form of parks. Those are the essential functions of a government. We cannot be all things to all people. Now, Meadville is fortunate because as a county seat and as the host to Meadville Medical Center, we have a number of social services that simply are not available in other communities our size. So we are quite fortunate for that. Economic reality, Narcan. Even though the Narcan may be given to us for free, the actual costs to administer a dose of Narcan is somewhere around $1,250 for a professional fire department. Even volunteer departments have told me that they estimate their cost at $1,000. I'm glad to do that if it saves a life. But again, there has to be the desire to change on the part of the drug abuser. It's human behavior. We cannot force people to give up drugs. Ultimately, they have to choose and seek help.
Okay, next question, we'll start this one with Jamie. This month, I believe it was this month, council was advised that it should formally close city parks, and one suggestion was from dusk to dawn, and this was advised to curb vandalism and other illegal activities in the parks. Do you think this is a good idea, and why or why not?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, parks are closed from dusk to dawn, are they not?
No.
Oh, they're open 24 hours, all parks in town? I know that we were always deterred from going to the parks in the evening and, you know, Shady Brook Park and all of that. You know what, I stand corrected because they've got lights at Heidi Cooper to do, you know, to play tennis and basketball. So, no, not parks that have lights. No, I don't think that that's the best thing to do. If we've got public parks, I think that, and we don't normally close them, then no, I don't think we should. It should be public and it should be accessible to everyone, if that's the way it's been going. As far as the, you know, vandalism has always been around. It is unfortunate that it, you know what I mean, that we've got to talk about this, that we have to go in and you know, see it. It's ugly and it's you know, not a great thing, but it's possibly kids that are bored, that we don't have many things to do here. For kids maybe their age, and maybe we need to again seek help from the public, see why people are out doing that, see what time they're out, and try to figure out some solutions with the public. But yeah, if it is public property and we normally have them open, then I say keep them open.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yeah, I would say to keep them open. I think there was kind of a discussion around, well, the Diamond Park is a park and it, you know, people need to pass through there and walk. And my understanding is it was like, we'll probably need to have the police go back and look at where the vandalism is occurring. I think that that's a great idea. Like, just really try to narrow down like what the actual issue is, where it's located. Take it from there. It sounded like it was, I think it was Shady Brook or maybe. I couldn't be at the meeting. So at any rate, I would say to, you know, keep it specific and not make a global rule, because I do know that people walk through Diamond Park and, you know, it's a beautiful evening out.
Thank you. Nancy?
Yeah, I think that what I heard about the Diamond Park issue was that people could still walk through the Diamond if they wanted to, if they were walking their dog or something. I don't think anyone would be stopped for that. But I think when you if council makes it's recommended to council that they close parks. They can't say, well, let's keep this one open and this one till 10 and this one till, there has to be a uniform decision as to what they're going to do. And the only time I think that should be an issue and come to council is because there is vandalism, there is a problem. That costs money. We can't have security there 24/7. So it's the cost involved, it's how much is happening, and then a decision to do something that will be for all the parks. You can't just separate one out from the other. But as far as someone walking through or taking a dog for a walk, they weren't indicating that was going to be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, I have a philosophical problem with closing the parks. And I think most members of the current council have similar issues. They really don't want to close parks. However, there are issues out there. And you would be astounded when I take my dog for a walk at 3:30 in the morning. You would be astounded at the number of people who travel through Shady Brook Park, which is right up the street from where I live. So they're well used. And by and large, these people are on their way to and from work. They're not committing vandalism. It's a hard pill to swallow, though, when we talk about putting about $600,000 into a place like Shady Brook Park through private fundraising used to leverage publicly available grants, and then have to replace windows not once, not twice, but 3 times. And that's a real issue. We probably will have to take some concern or some security measures be it surveillance or otherwise, to do that. I would take issue with the statement that these people are bored and have nothing to do. We have 3 pools at the rec complex. We have an ice rink, tennis courts, at least 4 playgrounds in the city, Smock Nature Trail, boat access at Bicentennial Park, Cora Clark Nature Trail. We've put $400,000 into HP Way Park, and as I said, another $600 in the other park. So can you name another community our size that offers all those recreational opportunities?
Thank you. Marcy?
So I did watch this city council meeting online, and I do remember that it was brought to council by the recommendation of the police department, and it was in order for them to legally apprehend the criminals conducting the criminal activity. And I would consider closing the parks. Sometimes I think that we have to help our children not be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I've said that to my kids, my 4 kids, a lot. When something horrible happens, it's a lot of times because someone's at the wrong place at the wrong time. So that I would consider that. However, I do believe that Diamond Park is different. Diamond Park is in the center of our town. It's well lit, and there are surveillance cameras there. So in my opinion, Diamond Park can be taken off the list of parks closed during those hours, during those off hours, during the dark, when all of this activity takes place. Unless another park was well lit and had surveillance cameras. Then I would consider leaving that one open. But in order to assist the police department in apprehending the criminals that are conducting this activity, I would be in favor of it. And they did point out in the meeting that they would not be apprehending dog walkers, that they would not be targeting those people. That's all.
Thank you. Next question, we'll come back to the other end of the table and start with Gretchen again. Meadville currently has a city manager position open. If elected, what would you like to see in a new city manager?
I think in a new city manager, I would like to see someone who works really well with diverse populations. They can delegate. They understand that they have this job of managing the city and also being a liaison between council and staff. I feel that our recent city managers have really done a great job, and I really think the city staff has as well. There's so much I appreciate in just getting involved in city council, their roles that they've taken on, their ability to manage really well. So I would say definitely that component. Also, they have to have a business sense, much like the questions you're asking. Do they know how to read reports? It's my understanding they have to present the budget to council, so they're going to come up with that, that initial budget that, it hopefully looks logical and reasonable. So I think that pretty much covers it. I have to say that I'm really impressed with the current city manager and Gary. They've just done a really great job. Thanks.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I think the city manager has to meet all the qualifications that need to be met. And I know that when we've hired before, we've had some professionals go out and do the initial and cut it down, and then we met with them, and they have to have the ability to work with the city leaders. This in particular, we don't have a finance director right now. We have an interim finance director too. So the city's been through quite a lot, and I think it's especially important right now to make sure we have a proper city manager in place.
Thank you. Jim?
Meadville operates under the council manager form of government. The mayor is largely a figurehead and votes to break ties, or is the last one to vote, so that they would be the tiebreaker in any event. If we needed to replace a manager, I think we'd want someone who is well-versed in finance and law and able to negotiate contracts, because we have contracts coming up. but that's if we needed a city manager. We have a person who's serving in the position right now and does a good job. Andy did a great job. A future council, of course, can make any decision it wishes to as far as hiring a city manager.
Thank you. Marcy?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with Jim. The city manager job is extremely important. They need to have great communication skills and they need to be detailed oriented. I have not heard anything but good things about this, the acting city manager right now. And however, if she chose not to stay at the job, I think that we would have to expand our search and make sure that we found a highly qualified person, because it is a very sensitive job. That person needs to be able to work with many different personalities and prepare reports, know finance. It's a big position. So we do need somebody that is qualified, as well as having great communication skills, and sometimes that's tough to find.
Thank you. Jamie?
Agreed. I mean, I think I agree with everybody that the city manager job is, it is a crazy complicated job. And as far as the interim manager right now, she does a wonderful job, being the liaison between city council and every single person that works for the city, from the police to the people at the courthouse to, you know, everyone. She, or that person, you know, speaks with and communicates between city council and the city. So being that liaison and having all the qualifications that Jim said, being able to take the budgets that the figureheads give and, you know, looking at them, whittling them down, and negotiating contracts, absolutely. She needs to be able to do all that and more. But as far as us actually needing a new one, I think that we got a pretty great one as, you know, interim.
Thank you.
Thank you. There was talk a little bit ago, we were talking about things for kids. We've got vandalism in the parks because maybe we don't have enough to do. One of the things that's been talked about is improving the city's parks and recreational aspects. Nancy, we'll start with you. What can or should be done to improve the city's parks and recreational opportunities, and how would it be paid for?
Well, I attended a meeting for getting a grant for one of our city parks just a few months ago. Right now, the city's getting public-private grants for up to $1 million to improve 2 parks and playgrounds. As Jim pointed out, we have quite a bit for kids to do in this town. We have the recreation complex, we have tennis courts, we have 4 other playgrounds. I'll note that Andrew Gow's has Purple Fox Games downtown. He opened his business in 2016 with 700 square feet. He's moved now to 209 Chestnut Street, and he has over 3,000 square feet in there. For children and young adults. So I think there's quite a bit that we already have, and I think we need to get it out what we already have and use it. The city can only afford so much money. Here we are talking about we're probably going to be what, $300,000 to $600,000 out of budget again. Where's this money coming from? You can't ask the 92-year-old woman who's choosing between food and drug and her prescriptions to continue to pay this. We can't pay it with just raising taxes. We can't.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, I won't do the litany all over again about what we have. Although I forgot to mention, we do have a skateboard park up at the rec complex also. We spent about $400,000 on HP Way Park. That pretty much serves the north end of the city. We're spending about $600,000, or we intend to, at Heidi Cooper Park, and that pretty much takes care of the south end of the city. So both of those are taken care of. There is playground equipment in 5th Ward And right across the street, literally, right across the street in Vernon Township, there's more playground equipment at the softball field. Again, 2 blocks away from the Fifth Ward playground. The problem with the Fifth Ward playground is we cannot use CDBG funds because it lies in a floodplain, and CDBG funds cannot be used in a floodplain. So that's basically about it.
All right, thank you. Marcy?
I stand by the city's improvements of our parks, including the HP Way Park in conjunction with the Meadville Water Authority. And I also stand by the master development plan for the Heidi Cooper Park. I would be cautious of certain improvements to our park that would require maintenance, sanitation, or surveillance, costing the city more money. As Jim said, we don't have it. Or any improvements that invite vagrancy, vandalism, or criminal activity, as we're already dealing with that with our parks that we currently have.
Thank you. Jamie?
I just believe that our parks, all of our parks, should have, allocated money, not just certain parks. I think that if we're going to do one, we should do them all. There are people who live in all spaces in Meadville, and I think they all deserve nice parks. Again, I think that we should talk to the people who live in Meadville and see, what parks they use, how they would like to, spend the money here and upgrade the parks. We had a great meeting, and I think Nancy said she was there, and I know, I was there, and it was great for Heidi Cooper, and everybody had a lot of input, and it was really awesome to see. But there are other parks, and we want to make sure that all of the parks are taken care of here in town, not just certain parks in certain neighborhoods. And we just need to make it a priority to again, speak to the people who live here, because again, they are the experts here in town.
Okay, thank you. Gretchen?
Well, I remember the city council meeting this summer when Mark McGinnity from the Y came, and it was really exciting to have that type of people power and that organization involved, and how it kind of steamrolled forward to the meeting at the Heidi Cooper Park, and looking at like what we could actually do. I think, and there's also that, this came up with these interviews I did with like teachers, and actually head of the teachers union, people in the community, that they really do want summer parks programming back. And we could partner up, as we have in the past, with Allegheny students through, like, I think is it the Bonner program, I believe, and the Y. I mean, Mark is like ready to kind of roll in there. I think because you're talking about the parks, but what do we need in the parks? We need the people and kids. And I just, so many people have said, we want our kids to stop doing this and to be doing this. In terms of the city, I think just being a positive support. I would also, something someone mentioned that was a really cool thing is just looking to maybe developing kind of a mentoring program with like elderly and young adults who might want to learn, maybe like, hey, this is how you learn how to coach basketball, just to kind of get that community feeling. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Jim. It's going to be our last question of the evening. We've talked about taxes, every budget's tight, everything's horrible. It comes to finances at times. Should Meadville's elected officials encourage the county to conduct a countywide reassessment of property, tax reassessment, and why or why not? Jim?
I'm generally in favor of a reassessment because it's been effectively 50 years since the last one was performed. Actually, more like 52 years since the last one was performed. I had hair back then. The problem is the extreme cost. If you're going to do an assessment correctly, we have like 55,000 parcels in Crawford County. At $100 a parcel, you're talking $5.5 million. And I debate whether that even is an adequate figure. It might even be higher. It could be as high as $10 million because you want to correct all the errors that currently exist. So the question becomes, how do you pay for it? Again, I would look to the state. The state of Pennsylvania, for example, gives Harrisburg $6 million each year because of the tax-exempt properties located therein. Shouldn't Pennsylvania consider a similar program for other municipalities, either because of tax-exempt properties or because of the need to conduct an assessment which is, well, that's for a county, which is financially almost unbearable for the county to assume?
Thank you. Marcy?
I don't think I'm in favor of pushing for a countywide assessment, and it's mainly because we can't tax our way out of our budget problems anyways, and there's not, it does cost, I heard, $6 million, and that we don't have a quantifiable, we don't know what the quantifiable result will be. It's unknown of how much it will help us. And I am concerned for our property taxpayers, for our seniors and our young families. Unexpected tax hike could actually tax people out of their homes. Our taxes do still continue to go up. I'm not in favor of a countywide reassessment at this time. I'd rather focus on drawing business and people to downtown, increasing the efficiencies in city operations, expanding our tax base, practical spending, other ways besides taxing our way. We can't tax our way out of our budget problems.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
Yes, I'm absolutely for a tax reassessment. You know, the Center for Rural PA asks that, or recommends that we reassess every 4 years. There is going to be a large cost to it because, you know, like Jim said, it's been 50 years since we have reassessed our taxes. Essentially, each year that passes without reassessment, we lose revenue. Some city assessments are higher than they should be because of outmoded systems. People are paying more than their fair share in property tax. And they shouldn't. A reassessment would generate greater property tax revenue without raising tax rates. That sounds like a no-brainer to me. Regular assessments can ease the overall residential property tax burden. So absolutely, I think that we should push for a county reassessment.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yeah, it just seems like I'm also inclined to push for that reassessment because it's so long overdue. I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to go back to when I took a course this summer on Pennsylvania government, and the comment was, wow, you know, some counties it's been 30 years, and I was like in the chat going, well, we're at 52. And the implications of that unfairness, you know, like who is carrying that burden? It's an unknown. Like it really is. It's not fair. I'm not really sure how to approach the fact that it's this huge dollar amount. Definitely, in terms of fairness, we need to look at reassessing.
Nancy?
Well, that's a tough question. I'm in favor of it because I've done 42 tax appeals for people who are unfavorably assessed and unfairly taxed. And the place we represent is the city of Meadville. The city of Meadville is one of the places where the people are most, they're the ones that are most desperately in need of this. So I wish there was another way to do it. The assessment office used to have more people there. In my mind, I thought, you know, they should go out and assess these properties, maybe do 20 a week if they had enough personnel over there. Unfortunately, we will hurt probably the same people we're trying to help because there is going to be a cost of $5.5 to $10 million, and it's going to come back to the same taxpayers. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So, but there's no question in my mind, having done those tax appeals, that there's a need for it. And the biggest people that are hurt are the people in the city of Meadville. So is that real? Yes. So I'm torn. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to our closings. We're going to go in reverse order. So Jamie, we'll start with you, and we'll give you up to 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Again, I'd like to thank, you know, the Armstrong and the Meadville Tribune and for putting this on to inform voters. I want to thank again the volunteers and the people of Meadville that are watching, and the people of Meadville that live here and make this city so great. I'm running for mayor for people like my mother. She lived here her entire 77 years, and she couldn't tell you who was on city council, not because she didn't care, but because city council didn't care about her or people like her. City council wasn't making life better for people like her, and wasn't considering people like her when they were making the decisions. There's a real disconnect between the people who live here and the people charged with making the decisions that affect us all. She was smart, capable, and valuable. She deserved a local government that worked for her, and so does Meadville. I'm Jamie Kinder, and I'm asking for you to vote for Meadville. I'm asking you to vote for Jamie, Jack, and Gretchen on November 2nd.
Thank you. Marcy?
Again, I'd like to thank the Meadville Tribune and Armstrong and the voters at home that took the time out to watch this. Voters of Meadville, a balanced budget is vital to the economic growth and well-being of a city. As your mayor, I would focus on our budget issues by working with City Council for practical spending only, examining new ways to create revenue, and by working to increase efficiencies in city operations. I find it imperative for the City of Meadville to work with the Economic Progress Alliance, local businesses, and the nonprofits to assist in any way we can with the French Creek Conservation and Entertainment Project. This project is the economic engine that our city needs, and I believe the project would be revolutionary for all of Meadville. As your mayor, I would explore and implement innovative parking solutions. I would encourage council to conduct a parking study to best design and plan for more parking with growth and development in mind. And lastly, I contend that we could increase efficiencies in city operations by making better use of our underutilized GIS system by pairing it with software and technology in our City Works department. I feel that I am a better qualified candidate with my education and business experience. I also think that my small town family values and vision for Meadville better aligns with our community. I am an independent candidate with passion for the success of the entire city, not for just one special interest group. And my goal is to create a better Meadville, one that draws both business and people. In order to accomplish this, we need a thriving, unified city. One that looks towards the future with everyone in mind and all entities working together for everyone's success. For these reasons, I'm asking you to write in Marcy Kantz for mayor on November 2nd. That's MARCYKANTZ.
Okay, thank you very much. Jim?
Thank you. 2 words. Thank you all. The Tribune, Armstrong, volunteers for organizing and putting this on, and of course for the Active Aging Center for hosting this venue. This is vital to a democracy and the public good. A few thoughts. Nancy Mangelo Bittner, I've known her for more years than either one of us will admit. When I think of her, I think of someone who is dedicated, passionate, generous, and dynamic. If you need something done, ask a busy woman to do it. She is very busy, but she gets it done. Meadville needs her enthusiasm on council. I urge you to vote for her. In the last couple months, I've gotten to know Marcy. She has business experience, and she's been in the community all her life. I hope you'll support her for mayor. One of the things that council has to consider with any issue, actually 3 things, 3 questions. 1, how much is it going to cost? 2, who's going to pay for it? 3, how are you going to pay for it? It's easy to say you want something, but finding the money to do it without putting undue hardship on people is the issue. Council's not glamorous. I was going through stuff today, and just in the last year, this much paperwork. Okay? Budgets, financial statements, audits, pension reports, We have a zoning ordinance, which is the most important thing we're going to do in the next 25 years, and we can't bluff our way through it. These are my areas of expertise. I hope you'll consider supporting me for re-election to council.
Thank you. I'll stop you there. Nancy?
Okay, I want to thank everyone once again, Tribune, Armstrong Cable, Armstrong, and the voters for watching the forum. And again, having lived in Meadville over 50 years, I think I know the challenges that our citizens face. One thing I want to make clear, this election isn't about Republicans or Democrats or liberals or anything. I voted in over 50 elections, and I've always selected my candidate that I felt had the background and experience to do the best job. I'll continue to do so. We need fiscally responsible council members experienced with reading and balancing budgets. To that end, Jim Moa is your man, and I will admit that I've known him for over 50 years. We're 6 months apart. I love him dearly, and I think 2 times I found something on a budget quicker than he did. But you have to have that experience. Over 40 years, like he noted on the DEP building, that savings to the city is just, you can't begin to talk about. I'm asking for another opportunity to serve the citizens of Meadville as your representative on City Council. I think that I've got to meet Marcy, and I think Marcy cares about the people in the city of Meadville. She cares about downtown. She has a business. We support her. And we want to all pledge our best efforts to consider all the people in the city of Meadville, not just a select group. It isn't about calling a group together for 30 or 40 people. We are available. We have our cell phone. We have our email. You can talk to us about anything at any time. But you cannot represent 12,600 people and then have 25 give their opinions on something and make it work. It doesn't work that way. You have to listen to everyone. And if they put us on City Council, they put us on there for a reason. They feel we have their best interest at heart and that we have the ability to make the decisions that are tough sometimes but need to be made. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for putting on the event.
All right, thank you very much. Gretchen?
Thanks. Yes, thanks you guys for doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to candidates. It was a great evening of discussion, and I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. I have the utmost respect for every single person here in the room, including you guys, especially you guys. I would just like to say, for me, when I think about leadership, I think of 3 qualities, and that would be authenticity, rationality, and empathy. And I think that's being that balance. I feel that, Jamie, Jack, and I have those 3 components. I also feel that everyone here, I think we all really care. My main focus, honestly, is really about the people. We are a very incredibly diverse group. We're parents, children, teachers, students, workers, self-employed, landlords, renters, homeless, living in shelters, building homes, people helping people, people in need, the poor, the wealthy, all stripes. I think we really are the people, and it would be an incredible opportunity for me to serve you and to listen to your incredible and beautiful collective wisdom. I think I just want to reiterate that I will definitely listen, I will learn, think, collaborate, research, and bring encouragement and positivity to solving problems. I will listen with the intention to understand, and I will not talk over you. I will be accountable, and I will work conscientiously for the city. And thank you so much. Vote, get out and vote, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's going to wrap up our evening tonight. We thank the candidates for appearing. We thank you very much for watching. We hope that you will get out and vote, whether it's by mail, by absentee ballot, in person for the candidate of your choice. And if you missed something from this forum, don't worry, it'll be repeated a lot on Armstrong Cable. Kevin has assured me. Tonight's forum will be on Armstrong's Channel 23 and Channel 100, as well as its YouTube channel. The first of the several repeats of tonight's events will be on Thursday, October 21st at 7:30 p.m., Saturday, October 23rd at 2:30 p.m., and if you don't want to watch the NFL because the Steelers aren't playing or the Browns aren't playing on Sunday, it'll be on at 1 o'clock on Sunday the 24th. Once again, we want to thank the candidates for their willingness to appear, because we couldn't have the forum without them, nor could we have it without you watching. Thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Brick Green and the Meadville Tribune, I'm Keith Gushard. Have a good evening.